We're holding here in the Mishnah. If you have a Gemara, art scroll, it should be the last one, 29a. 29a. 4. The Mishnah at the very bottom of the page, of 3-4 lines on the bottom of the page, of Chav Tes Amud Aleph 29a in Mesechta Megillah. So the Mishnah will, as we're coming to the end of the entire Mesechta, we're going to circle back the entire theme of the Mesechta. The first, let's say, 20 blot of this Mesechta, they were discussing all the halachas of Megillah, laws of Megillah, when you read the Megillah and explaining the Megillah. Afterwards, we continue to, once we discuss Megillah, discussing the Sefer Torah, the laws of the Sefer Torah, Kriyas HaTorah. Once we spoke about the holiness of a Sefer Torah, we went on to the topic of the holiness of a shul. And we spoke about a shul for a while. So now we're going to go back to our original topics, the idea of Purim. Specifically, earlier in the Mesechta, we spoke at length about the 4 Parshiyos, the 4 Torah readings that we read between Rosh Chodesh Adar and Rosh Chodesh Nisan. First of Adar and the first of Nisan, the 4 special Parshiyos editions, and we're going to now go back to that topic of about 4 editions. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah, Chav Tes Amud Aleph 29a, 4 lines from the bottom. Our sages said that when it comes to Rosh Chodesh Adar until Nisan, we read 4 Parshiyos to commemorate 4 things. Let me just bring this up on the screen over here. Brought up a few different examples from different years. This is March 2022, and you see Parshas Pekudei has no Parsha of the 4 Parshiyos the week before. Vayakel has Parshas Shkalim. Then there's 1 week empty, and then there is Zachar, Parshas Zachar, which is Shabbos before Purim. Then there's an empty week, and then there's Para. The 4 Parshiyos are to remind us 4 different mitzvahs that took place during the times of the Beis HaMikdash, or if it has to do with that time of year. First one is Shkalim. Shkalim means a half coin. We all do the mitzvah on Erev Purim of Machzas HaShekel, giving 3 half coins to tzedakah. It's half of a denomination of the coin of that time. Back in those days, until we had the paper currency, the Federal Reserve, we always, and then every bill is worth the same amount. It used to be that every single coin had a worth based on the value of the physical coin, whether it was made out of gold or silver or copper. And they used to give a machzas shekel. Every single Jew, wasn't an income tax, it was a poll tax. Every single Jew had to give half of a silver shekel to the Beis HaMikdash every single year. And from this was enough to buy all the korbanos, all the public communal korbanos for the entire year, plus many, many more things. For example, they used to repair all the roads in Yerushalayim with this money. They used to pay the teachers who teach all these children in Yerushalayim with this money, plus many other things would take place with the Machzas HaShekel. Here is just an old Machzas HaShekel coin from the times of the Beis HaMikdash that was found.
In the flesh.
Right, correct. There's many such examples. It used to be very rare, quite rare, but now with all the archaeological finds that they do, there's many of them all over.
Is it half a shekel or a shekel?
It's a half shekel coin.
Oh.
Meaning it's not a shekel that's split in half. It's a shekel, it's like a $50 sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And as we learned earlier, Haman wanted to give Achashverosh 10,000 silver talents, however much money that was, in order to be able to have permission to destroy the Jews. And he had a nefarious idea in mind, which was to take away the schus of merit, how the Jews gave half a silver coin every year to tzedakah, to the Beis HaMikdash. And so he was going to he was going to give the equivalent, right, of many years, several years to Achashverosh, and Hashem says, our shekel came before your shekel, meaning the Jews have been giving machzas shekel for many, many generations, long before Haman, and hence, that's why the first of the 4 parshas we read is always shkalim. That's why it's the first of the 4 parshas, in order that we should have shkalim coming before Purim, before the decree of Haman. So the first of the 4 parshas is shkalim. In addition to that, the half shekel coin had to be submitted from the entire Jewish nation by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first of Nisan. Submitted and accounted for. So on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first of Adar, the month before Nisan, it would make announcements about the machzas shekel, and the best place to do it is in shul. And so to commemorate that mitzvah, the first of the 4 parshas is shkalim. Okay, if you look at the screen, what's the second of the 4 parshas? This one over here on the top right. Zachar. Shkalim is half a coin, silver coin to the base of Mikdash. Zachar is to remember what Amalek did to us, how to destroy Amalek. And this is always a week before Purim, because Haman was from the descendants of Amalek, called Agagi, Agag, king of Amalek. And we always read it to Parsha the week before Purim, Shabbos before Purim. Hence, in some weeks, some years you'll have Shkalim and Zachar one after the other. Many years you'll have a separation of 1 week, depending when Purim is, depending on Rosh Chodesh is. Shkalim we always do as close as possible to Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Adar, or the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Adar.
Oh, what's interesting is we had earlier finished in this Mesechta.
Correct.
As far as actually
Yassi, manishma.
A word is worth.
Baruch Hashem. We're talking about shekel. All the shekels.
Says a word is worth 1 sum, which is a shekel, right?
Right.
And silence is worth 2.
Right.
So I guess half silence would be half a shekel, half a shekel.
So if someone is only quiet 50% of the time, that's worth half a shekel. Yes, I agree with you on that. As we had earlier. Yes. Good point, Toby. The third parsha that we read is, bring that up, is Parshas Para. Para is a red heifer. Is a very nice steakhouse in Yerushalayim called the Red Heifer. Para, there's a red heifer, a red cow to be completely red, which was used to purify everyone, all the Jews who were tamei mes, impure for touching a dead body. And in order to bring the carbon Pesach on time, everyone had to be patar, pure, and not impure, in order to make the carbon Pesach on time. So we read this before Rosh Chodesh Nisan because it was a 7-day process to become pure. And we read it before Rosh Chodesh Nisan to remind everyone to become pure and go to the base of Mikdash, and then you'll be able to get your carbon and be in time for the carbon Pesach. However, we don't read it the one before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, although that's a proper time, because we read a different parsha called Parshas HaChodesh. Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, Hashem, the first mitzvah the Jewish people as a nation received is to sanctify the month of Nisan. Hashem shol Moshe Rabbeinu Rosh Chodesh Nisan. This is what the moon should look like, and we make it a new month. And obviously, definitely, Rosh Chodesh starts, the new month starts when you actually see the new moon. And this reading is the Rabbanon, it's rabbinical in nature. It's not what makes Rosh Chodesh holy, but rather it's rabbinical in nature to, we do it on Rosh Chodesh Nisan because first it mentions the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. In addition to that, it also mentions all the korban, all the halachas, all the laws of bringing carbon Pesach, bringing a
But you have to know how thin actually the banana with the moon should be.
correct.
Because,
Right.
It could look like a banana for several days.
Correct.
Yeah.
So these 4 Parshiyos, these 4 extra portions are what's read during the month of Adar or slightly before Adar. You could read the first one. Says the Mishnah, third to bottom line on the page. Yeah, definitely take that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechaliyas b'Shabbos. The beginning of the month of Adar is when we start collecting from the entire nation all the machzah shekel, all the half coins, to be given to the treasury of the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, we read about the machzah shekel on or before Rosh Chodesh Adar. So if the first of Adar came out to be on Shabbos, as can happen in some years, this year Shkalim was 29th of Adar. It happens occasionally. So then you read Parsha Shkalim on Rosh Chodesh Adar itself, because it's on Shabbos, on the first of Adar. Curry in Parsha Shkalim, you read the Shkalim, and we're going to, Gemara is going to explain on the next Amud, the other side, which Torah portion you read for Shkalim. Chol liyos b'toich Shabbos, if Rosh Chodesh Adar happens most years, Rosh Chodesh Adar, first of Adar is the middle of the week. So for example, we have, this is 2024, this year, the Rosh Chodesh Adar Beis, it was on Monday. So we read Parsha Shkalim several days before that, and Rosh Chodesh Adar Aleph on Shabbos, although it was still before the month of Adar Beis. On a different year, it would have been before the month of Adar. For example, over here in this year, 2022, Rosh Chodesh Adar was on Thursday, but on Friday, and we read Parsha Shkalim in the month of Shvat on the 26th of Shvat, the Shabbos before the first of Adar, because that is a time when they would make the collection for the half a shekel in order for everyone to pay for the karbanos hatzibur, the communal karbanos in the Beis Hamikdash. Later on, in another two blot, the Gemara is going to discuss. So if you have Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Adar, so you have to read three different Torah readings. You have to read the Shabbos Torah reading, Rosh Chodesh Torah reading, and the Parsha Shkalim Torah reading. So do you only do two and push one away, or do you do all three? The Gemara is going to discuss that. Lamed Amud Beis. Continues the Mishnah. So if Rosh Chodesh, the first of Adar, happened to be during the week, so then you read Parsha Shkalim, the Torah portion saying that everyone should give a half a coin. You read that on the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Adar, even though it's during the month of Shvat or Adar Aleph. Mafsikin l'Shabbos acheres. And in that case, you can never have the second Shabbos, the Shabbos after Parsha Shkalim, to be the Shabbos before Purim. Why? Look at the calendar again. So we're in this year over here, where Rosh Chodesh Adar, let's say on, it was over here on Friday. So then the Shabbos, Purim's over here on the 14th of Adar. Purim is over here on this Thursday. So there's a Shabbos in between. Even if Rosh Chodesh Adar is on Sunday, correct? So then in that case, Purim will be on also a Sunday, and the Shabbos before that and the Shabbos before that will be, I guess, the day of Tinius Esther. It doesn't really happen nowadays that Purim's on Sunday, unless you're in Yerushalayim. But even then, the Shabbos before Purim would not be the Shabbos after Parsha Shkalim. So therefore, it can only be like that if Shabbos Parsha Shkalim itself is on Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, mafsikin the Shabbos acheres, like you have in most years, right? You have a break of 1 week, right? 1 week, here's Shkalim. So we have Parshiyos Vayakel Shkalim, then a week of no extra Parsha, just Pekudei, then a week of Vayikra and Zachar. And that's what you have. Most years, you have a break of 1 week without an extra Parsha before Parsha Zachar. Bashniya, back to the Mishnah. On the second Shabbos, prior to, which is either the second Shabbos, if Rosh Chodesh Adar was on Shabbos, or the Shabbos before Purim, the second extra Torah portion that's read in the month of Adar is called Parshas Zachar. Zachar, it's a very short parsha, about 9 psukim, which discusses the war Amalek had with the Jewish people on the way to receiving the Torah after they left Mitzrayim. And we read this always the Shabbos before Purim, because we're given the mitzvah to always destroy the remembrance of Amalek. We always remember, is that Parsha Zachar? Zachar is, right? That's, we say it every day in the Shesh Shliach, such sticking with the Kriya of Purim, Shalach. Right? It's end of Parshas Ki Savai. And Haman, who came from Amalek, was a descendant of Amalek, so we have a mitzvah to always destroy any memory of Amalek, and we read that at Shabbos before Purim. Bashlishis, the third parsha, extra Torah portion we read in the month of Adar, is called Para. Correct, Para. Para Aduma, about the red heifer, the red cow. Because the Para Aduma is there to purify the Jewish people from tumas mes, from the impurity of becoming tamei, impure to that body. And everyone has to get ready for Pesach to bring the carbon Pesach. And we read this parsha always the week before we read Parshas HaChodesh. They come together. We wanted to get it as close as possible to Rosh Chodesh. And as we learned previously in the Mesechta, that you can't do it the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh or of Rosh Chodesh, because that's reserved already for Parshas HaChodesh. So therefore, we read it the Shabbos before Parshas HaChodesh. And so sometimes you might have a break between Parshas Zachar and Parshas Para. So the fourth one, you read the mitzvah of Hashchodesh Zalachem, which is all the halachas of Korban Pesach, and you read it always a Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Nisan as a double reminder of the halachas of Korban Pesach. And the first of Nisan, this is Mesechta Tainus, we had this Megillah Tainus, and the first of Nisan was a day the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan, was dedicated, and the second of Nisan was a day that the first paraduma was done through, the first red cow was done through Aaron HaKohen. And we always want Hadras and Shal Yisrael. Find something good about another Jew. Even everything looks bad, Hadras, and try to purify them. The Kollel in Crown Heights, when they first started, and so they asked the Rebbe if they should have one unified learning, everyone learns the same topic, or different topics. And so the Rebbe said, generally it goes according to what you have the biggest interest. It's the thing that you want the most. However, if everything is the same, you should learn about halachas of building mikvahs. What's a kosher mikvah? Because that's taharasan shel Yisrael, purity of Bnei Yisrael. As we learned just before, one of the reasons we pick up grass after, throw it over our shoulders after leaving a cemetery. Which of these parshiyos, the only one that's deraisa, that's biblical, and the only parsha of the year that's really obligated to hear, is Parshas Zachar. It's a mitzvah to destroy Amalek, and that we do through reading Parshas Zachar. Parshas Para, it's a little bit more obligatory. It's not deraisa mamish. It's not actually biblical, but it's a little more obligatory than the other two parshas, and the other two parshas are derabanan. And it's an obligation, of course, to hear the four parshas, and most importantly, it's Parshas Para. You have to go here. Says the Gemara. We are 24A4. Not 24. 29A4.
What?
A4. In the Mishnah. 29A4. Here's one with the right.
Two pages on.
Here. You got it?
It's A4, isn't it?
A4. Oh, Reb Shmuel, Shalom Aleichem. B'chamishis. Sure. And the fifth week, which is after you finish all these Parshiyos, after you finish the four, you go back to reading everything in its regular way, regular order of reading, and no special portion is added on from the fifth week and onwards. That's what it means, Kisidron, back to the regular order. La Kollel Mafsikin. Now, there's many special days on the Jewish calendar. Right? Rosh Chodesh, we went through this at length. How many aliyahs on every single Torah reading? Right? Rosh Chodesh, Tisha B'Av, fast days, Purim, Chanukah, Yom Tov, Yom Kippur, Shabbos, and we have a regular order of learning the Torah that every week we read one parsha. We're soon going to have in the Gemara how some places they would. We finish the Torah every year. In some places, it would take 3 years. Each parsha would be a third of the length. They would finish the Torah once every 3 years. But any time that there is a special Yom Tov, we don't read the parsha of the week. Instead, we read the Yom Tov for that time. We read the parsha of the Yom Tov. For example, Shabbos Chol Hamoed, we don't read the Torah portion of the week. Rather, we read the Torah reading of Chol Hamoed. And other events, besides for that, before Shabbos and Yom Tov, we always read that. And if it's sometimes we read that special event as a mafter. So the Gemara will soon explain, qualify, quantify this statement a little bit better. It says, Lakol Mavsikin. For all special days, you interrupt the regular programming in order to give you a special announcement that we read the special Torah reading of that time. Rosh Chodeshim, on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim and Purim Taniyos, on fast days, we read the Torah reading of the fast day. So let's say Monday and Thursday, usually you read that Torah reading of that day. Monday, Thursday, if it's a fast day, you read for the fast day, you read for Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, Taniyos, fast days, Chanukah, Purim, you read that Torah reading instead of the regular Torah reading. By Maamar's, as we learned previously, is when there were representatives from every shevet, every tribe, who would represent the Jewish people in the Beis HaMikdash on a daily basis. And of all the chosen electors, they would choose some of those to go to the Beis HaMikdash, and the rest would stay in their own city, be more than a minyan, and they would read they would fast, and they would read a special Torah reading of Parshas Bereshis, as we've done this, we went through this before. Yom Kippurim and Yom Kippur by Mincha, we don't read Vaychal about a fast day. Rather, we read about Parshas Acharemus, about the prohibition of prohibited marriages, prohibited unions, that people should do teshuvah on that, for that. Otherwise, we, on a regular Shabbos, read the regular weekly Shabbos Torah reading. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hassam, we learned in a Mishnah, Mesechta Shkalim, very interestingly, Mesechta Shkalim is the only Mesechta where there was a Gemara on there, Gemara Bavli, but we don't have the Gemara. It's lost. And therefore, anything we have from Mesechta Shkalim is from the Talmud Yerushalmi. If you ever learn Mesechta Shkalim, it's very difficult to learn. It's a very different, very, very different layout from Talmud Bavli. We learned in a Mishnah, in Mesechta Shkalim, Mishnayis, Be'echad Be'adar Mashmi'in Ala Shkalim. You know, in the 1920s, somebody came out with he was a forger, but came out with a new discovery. They found a manuscript of the original Mesechta Shkalim, and they brought it in to the different Kollel Eretz Hatzvi, and they all dismissed it out of hand. That can't be. I think the Rogatchover going said there's 75 different mistakes that he found in there.
And the Abraham said it was a forgery.
Correct.
I think in the beginning, I think the Chafetz Chaim was fooled, but then he got unfooled when he heard actually the info.
Correct. So, Yeshar Koyach. Thank you. Issue number 18. Well, Yeshar Koyach. We'll bring that up very soon. Issue number 18. Yeshar Koyach. So it says in the Mishnah on Be'echad Ba'adar Mashmin al Shkalim on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first of Adar, you read, you announce in the whole land of Eretz Yisrael, reminder everybody to give your machzah shekel, everybody give your coins. Like the IRS goes, everybody give what you have to give to the Beis HaMikdash. Next page, turning the page to the Ala Kilayim, and you also have to make an announcement regarding the need to uproot any Kilayim. Kilayim are, bring up the image over here. This is just an image I found online trying to find Kilayim. Kilayim is a very big portion, very big percentage of all the fruits and vegetables we eat today are probably Kilayim, but Kilayim is a mixture, forbidden mixtures of the Torah, right? Wool and linen you can't wear together. You cannot make a ox and a horse, two different animals work together at the same time simultaneously. There's Kilei Karim, you're not in a vineyard. You can't graft two different type of trees together. You cannot graft in a.
You see, well, you couldn't do it by throwing it on the ground.
Right. So you couldn't make a mixture of two different seeds together and plant it.
It'd have to be.
It has to be two. So you see over here, this is just an example. This is a small garden. Is very interesting. Very specific halachas. But here, these are 4 different species, and the way to allow them, since it's not a large garden, it's very small. Each one has to have its own specific enclosure, like this.
Oh, wow.
Idea of kilayim. So you're not allowed to mix 2 types of plants together, 2 grains together, 2 trees together.
Is it the fruit farm?
This was made as a assist to learn Mesechta kilayim.
I'm still confused.
But isn't it with one throw? I mean, planting seeds, you can't mix them with one throw.
Right. So you can't mix them in one throw. But they also have to be a certain distance from each other, so they shouldn't look like they're growing together.
You got the cucumber, you got zip. You drop one here and you walk a little further, you put a different seed there. Is that okay then?
So if there's a certain amount of distance in between, then it's okay. Kilayim only applies in Eretz Yisrael, does not apply in Chutz La'aretz. But the Rabbanan, they said he can't do it in Chutz La'aretz. A Jew cannot do it in Chutz La'aretz. But a non-Jew could do it. So if you're, even in your Kilayim, a lot of it has to do with visuals. So if there's a little separation in between, it's usually fine. If it's on 2 different sides of the fence, it's usually fine. But if it's a large field, you have to have a larger separation.
Are you allowed to tell the goy to do it, or is it only like the goy does it on his own?
Sort of goy does it on his own. So you cannot make a grapefruit tree. A grapefruit combines a lemon and I
think an orange.
An orange.
I mean, a lemon and orange or something.
Okay, you cannot make a grapefruit tree because it's making kilayim. But if you have a grapefruit seed, it's already been made. That you're allowed to plant. And you could buy grapefruits in the store because it's coming from a non-Jew.
Oh, I mean, if it would be coming from a Jew in Israel, it would be prohibited?
Yeah.
It's amongst the things you have to worry about. Right?
Correct. That's one amongst the things you have to worry about till today is kilayim. It's a very serious thing. But the halachas of kilayim, I say, are beyond the scope of just this Mishnah over here. So kilayim is a mixture of forbidden plantings, and Beis Din used to go around and used to uproot all the plantings that were kilayim, and all the people who had kilayim mixtures, forbidden mixtures in their fields were very happy. Beis Din is doing a free cleaning job for us. So they went, and Beis Din said, we're going to be mafter. We're going to, if we find, they would go around and make inspections, and then they would be mafker. They would make the entire field ownerless, and anyone who wants could take. Hefker, Beis Din, Beis Din has a power to take any private property and make it ownerless if they so deem it necessary. What's it called when you take someone's property?
imminent domain.
Imminent domain, right. So Bezdin has the ability to have imminent domain. And therefore, then people started being very careful on Kilayim. They don't want to be caught by Bezdin with a forbidden mixture. So they would announce it on Rosh Chodesh Adar because that's the end of the planting season. And so to make sure that the very last plants are being planted at that time of year, so make sure that to uproot all your forbidden things that are growing, any forbidden mixtures that happen to be in your field, they would announce it. So therefore, right after Rosh Chodesh Adar is when the grain starts to grow, right? Wheat and barley, after Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Bezdin announces, make sure to clean up on Rosh Chodesh Adar, make sure to clean up before the grain starts to grow. We'll pause the Gemara here. We'll continue with Veyadaata, Moskva. In the book over here, we are on page 177.
You skip anything?
I don't think so.
Yesterday, today? Really?
Yes. I don't think we skipped that. I don't know.
Did we skip anything? It seems like.
The last thing we learned about was, before this, was about uprooting grass, a shul that was abandoned, and it started growing grass.
You're watching it, that's good, huh?
Yep.
No, you
Well, I mean.
no, you went out. No, you went out.
I mean, trying to see from.
I did, I know, and I know.
I mean, over here, I was saying, how much of here? And I have a little bit off your diet spice.
Well, then usually that would be gone, half gone already, quarter.
Let's see how this works. Well, it works out. Could you imagine that worked out? So you said Mendy and the Golem, volume 18. Just wanted to bring it up. The idea that you just look past the facade of the world, if you do that, you'll experience miracles because you're not looking past the facade. You're looking at the real existence. Copy that link. Control V. If anybody wants to look at it on their own, you could look at the story of the prophets of Eliyahu and Har Carmel, made with lots of creativity by our very own Rebbe label, Shliach. Here it is. Eliyahu and Har Carmel. Eliyahu was a prophet of Hashem, and the Jewish people at that time, under the guidance of King Achav, were serving an idol called Baal, worshiping Baal. Hashem sent the big E, Eliyahu Hanavi, and he offered a challenge to the prophets, false prophets of the Baal, of the idols. To each one should go on Har Carmel, Mount Carmel. We learned about this yesterday in the Gemara. Right? Har Carmel wanted to be by the Beis HaMikdash, was one of the tallest mountains in Israel. And he told them you can't walk on two sides of the fence. Either serve Hashem or serve the Baal. And they had a contest, each will bring the carbon and see which fire will come down from heaven to consume whose carbon, whose sacrifice. All the prophets of the Baal verse Eliyahu Navi, one singular person, and the prophets of the Baal knew that they wouldn't be successful, so they built a secret tunnel under their altar with someone there named Chilik ready to light the bull on fire. A snake came and bit him, and he died. And they're trying to wake him up, and all these different ways of trying to wake him up. And Eliyahu says, I think you went to Florida. And then afterwards, Eliyahu Navi says, when it's coming to the end of the day, Eliyahu Navi says, now, gathered all the Jewish people around and says, I want to show you and prove you how Hashem is Hashem. He says he built a new Mizbeach. It says no funny business there. You'll see there's no hidden tunnels underneath the ground. And then afterwards he said, dig a ditch around it, and they started pouring barrels and barrels and barrels of water. Then they brought a carbon. and a fire came down from Shemayim, from heaven, and licked up all the water, dried up all the water, and burnt the carbon. And everyone screamed, Hashem Elokim, Hashem is Hashem. And then they got rid of all of the prophets of the Baal until Izebel was upset, and he had Eliyahu to run away, etc. So the big miracle that happened here, besides for the fire coming down from heaven, usually fire and water don't mix. Usually water puts out fire. And here the fire consumed all of the water and also brought the water up as a carbon to Hashem. As we're holding here in the Maamar. Avol mitzad Shem Havaya. When it comes from the name of Hashem, when it comes from Shem Havaya, Vavke, Hashem creating the world, there's no limitations. As we had the story of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, that his daughter, by mistake, bought vinegar instead of oil, and they were too poor, and she was too embarrassed to tell her father. And father said, "Don't worry, Hashem is the one who makes the oil burn. He can make the vinegar burn." And that's what happened. It burnt an entire Shabbos. Same thing that Eliyahu Navi, find the space over here, find the place. We do see sometimes that Hashem will make things that are not natural to happen. For example, the story of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and the story of Avram Avinu and thrown into a fiery furnace, and the story of Eliyahu Navi, Bahara Carmel. Kumoy Eliyahu, Bahara Carmel. Eliyahu says like Eliyahu Navi and Bahara Carmel, where the water where the water was consumed by the fire. Just find the space up. I just want to find the right place up here. Here it is. And usually they don't get along with each other. However, Eliyahu Navi and the prophets of the Baal, the water was consumed by the fire. And that comes from the name of Havaya. Whenever a person has a challenge and they overcome it, so then they reveal a deeper bond with Hashem than they had before. And how does that work? Why does it work like that? How is difficulties and troubles, how do they make a person grow? All this is supernatural. This comes from an infinite level of Hashem, which is above nature entirely. Where there is no limitations of nature at all, since it is in a limit established by Hashem. And supernatural is above that. The world, as we know it, goes according to a system which is going according to the name of Elohim, the creation of the world. You know, there's a order of how things work. So true, the name of Hashem, the infinite Hashem, is the one creating the world. Every single thing that is created comes through the power which creates it. As it is stated at length above with the verse, Hashem Melech, Hashem is a king, constantly. Nevertheless, the name Havaya, Hashem's infinite name, is what's creating the world, and it's going through the medium of Shem Elokim, which makes it a limit. And this is the nature of the world. Shehamayim Water extinguishes and fire burns. And within the context of creation, you have certain rules and limits, although it is from the name of Havaya. So if you are going based on your own strengths, so then you're only going to receive or see apparently what's supposed to happen according to the nature of the world. But if you go above and beyond yourself, right, you reveal a deeper connection, a deeper bond with Hashem, then Hashem mirrors what the person does, and you're able to see super miraculous events take place, like Avram Avinu, Eliyahu Hanavi, Rebbe Chanina ben Dosa. Avram did not think to himself, he did not think to himself that I deserve to be saved. I deserve that I'm giving my life up for Hashem. I'm going to be thrown into a fiery furnace, but I'm not going to be killed. Avram Avinu, when he went into the fire having in mind that he will die. And it actually happened. As we see, his brother, Haran, they asked Haran, which side are you on? Are you on Avram Avinu's side or Nimrod's side? Or do you believe in Hashem or do you believe in Nimrod as a god? And he says, I'm not sure. Once he saw Avram Avinu get saved from the fire, so now they asked him, who do you believe in? You believe in Hashem or do you believe in idols? And he said, I believe in the God of Avram and Hashem. And he was thrown into the fire and he did not survive. He died. Avram Avinu was saved because he still had a mission to do. What was Avram Avinu's mission? To spread Hashem in this world, correct? To bring about a Jewish nation, which he wouldn't have been able to do yet. But Avram Avinu, when he was thrown into the fiery furnace, he did not have in mind that he will be saved. He thought to himself that the world will go the way it goes, that the fire will burn. And he was not afraid, and he withstood his challenge not to be separated from Hashem. He had big obstacles in his way. He had Nimrod and all of his retainers and everybody who desired that Avram Avinu be put to death, burned to death. And a big miracle happened for Avram Avinu, and he was saved. He was able to withstand the test that was given to him. And he removed, how did he stand it? He removed any covering the veil of nature, which are the concealments which stem from the name of Elikim. And you have the infinite light of Hashem, which is unlimited. And once you're dealing with that perspective, so then Hashem's infinite light is not limited, and fire won't burn us. Say water won't drown us, fire won't burn us. Because it's above limitations. Because the whole nature that fire has, that it burns something or someone, it's only a natural garment which Hashem gave it. From the perspective of Hashem's infinite light, it does not have to be like this. Fire does not have to burn. Because there are no definitions and no limits at all. So when we persevere without fear, we reveal Havaya that lies beneath the veil of nature. We're up to the bottom of page 182 of Megillah. We'll continue with that Amir Hashem tomorrow. So when you read a story, hear a story, isn't just a nice story or a nice comic to read in the Mendy and the Golem. It's a way to influence our own personal lives on a day-to-day basis. A deep Maamar like this could have a actual